Okay. Well, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening. Huh? Afternoon? No. Okay. I didn't get much sleep, I'll tell you last night. Well, here to give you the update today on FSMA update and preventive control specifically on the human food side. As I stated, I'm the deputy director of the Human and Animal Food Program on the west side. And you'll see on my slides why I'm on the west because of the size of this program. Most of the data I'm going to have on here, I want to tell people when we do data, the minute the data is on the slide, it's probably already outdated because our data is very dynamic. So I use the data as a context so you get a sense of what's going on, some of the work we're doing. This slide right here, because I wanted people to understand, when you say you work for FDA, people think it's a monolithic organization. And really, it's a large organization. There are 7 centers, and there's 1 operational unit. That's the unit I work for. That's the Office of Regulatory Affairs. But primarily for this slide, the center that gives us the work for this meeting would be the Center for Food Safety and Applied Nutrition. And they have a role. I spent 10 years working at CIPSAM prior to going over to the Office of Regulatory Affairs. And the center's primacy is, I call it the big 3 Ps. The center takes the lead on providing the policy, they provide all the program development, and they provide the priorities. They tell us virtually on my side of the house what they want us to do. And of course, they're also an integral part of any kind of enforcement action that we would deem appropriate. This is my side of the house, Office of Regulatory Affairs. For the most part, we conduct the inspections, the investigations, we conduct the sample collections, we have our own laboratories and they do the sample analysis, and then where appropriate, we also do the enforcement action. So I describe us, the centers may be the head, and ORA, we're the arms and the feet. We are actually out there, the boots on the ground doing the work. This is what I represent, the Office of Human and Animal Food. It is a huge program. It is the largest program in FDA. And because our program is so large, they broke us up into 6 divisions. There are 6 divisions in the West, and there are 6 divisions in the East. I have spent my entire career working on the East, but I'm the deputy director on the West. Just works out that way. But my boss is Joanne Gibbons. She is the program director for the West. On the East, we have Vanetta Howard-King. She's the program director for the East, and then her deputy is Charles Bico. So you can see the names. Most people are used to, if you interact with our districts, you're used to names like Detroit District, Kansas City. Now we go by the term, we call it program division, half West 1, half West 2, because what we did in 2017 is ORA reorganized ourselves to become program specific, whereas the human and animal food investigator, that's all they do. We have investigators that do drugs, investigators that do biologics, but human and animal food, that's all they do is the human and animal food work. I want people to see this slide because FSMA implementation, we have been doing this a long time. And when we sat and we thought about it, come next year, we will have been at this for 10 years. The act was passed in 2011 by President Obama. So come 2021, 10 years of still implementing. We are almost there. We've done a lot of good things, but we still have some work to do. Remember when FSMA was passed, there are primarily 7 pillars to FSMA that they wanted us to implement. Primarily, my focus, of course, will be the CGMPs, preventive human foods, but we also did the CGMPs and PC for animal foods. Produce safety is really starting to kick in right now. Sanitary transportation, that's an add-on that we are doing now. Intentional adulteration, that is probably the last one. That will be coming on board more for larger firms that deal with the small and very small. And then, of course, the third-party accreditation is kicking in. I have this slide here for data overload. You'll be amazed how many people in my organization deal with data. I deal with data on the ORA side. CIPSAM deals with data, CBM deals with data, everybody's dealing with data. So when I tell people I give numbers, I say use it as a context because everyone's given data, and any given day, 2 people can pull the same data and have totally different results. It's really based on how you analyze it. I want you to understand here, if you aren't aware, the preventive controls and sanitary human food operation, the compliance program is out. If you have not seen it, And that's important because this is directing our inspectional force. They're following the guidelines. Traditionally what happens, whenever we get a new rule out, the centers will issue what we call a field assignment. So for 3 years, they virtually tell us where to go and what to do. For 3 years, until they get the data, they evaluate it. Once it's been done for 3 years, they issue what's called a compliance program. Well, the compliance program for the human side is out from CIFSAN. And so I made sure I made a copy of it. It's actually on the website. If you have not seen it, please take a look and look at it. And the importance of it, because most people, when we talk about preventive controls, most people know what we call limited scope and full scope. Most people have heard about that. But there are technically 5 different types of inspections we technically can do right now on the human side. We can do the food CGMPs inspections. We can do the limited scope, which is for the most part subpart B, but then we do what's called a broad assessment. We're going to look at some of the processes like either sanitation and allergen. We're going to do the full scope, which is everything, looking at the food safety plan and the hazard analysis. But for your group, the biggest area is probably the modified requirements for the qualified facility. And I'm hoping most people have heard of this term, and most firms that are eligible take that opportunity and do the necessary requirements to qualify for the qualified facility. And then, of course, we have what we call the modified requirements at facilities that solely engage in unexposed package of food, primarily required for temperature for food safety reasons. And just to make clear, do most of you know about the self-attestation, the responsibility that you could do it under 2? Well, technically you have to have a certain amount of requirement, money. And then you can do self-attest under 2 ways. You can self-attest saying, 1, you're a very small firm and you self-attest yourself and you will supply us that data. Or 2, you can say you self-attest under either some jurisdiction other than FDA, so state, tribal, but you've got to have some way of letting us know when you self-attest. Once you do that, we will then have that in our system to identify all firms that are self-attest. And you'll see I have some slides on that to show you that. I wanted to give you a sense of the work we've done so far in 2020. You'll see what I said, like I said, for the most part, everyone's aware of what we call the limited scope. That's the basic baseline work we're doing, the GMPs we're doing. We don't plan our work anymore, that's just basic maintenance work. You can see domestically we've done a little over 1,000 already, and this date we pulled it the 2nd of February. Farm, we've done 282, and our state partners have done 874. Limited scope, just basic subpart B. The tougher work, the heavy lift when we have to do, is really the full scope, doing the subpart C with the hazard analysis and looking at the food safety plan. We plan in FDA to do 812 domestically. We've completed 211. Our state partners have contracted to do 444, and our states have only completed 35. And foreign, we're going to try to do 150, and we've done 47. As I stated, we brought, as the rules come on board, we will add this work on. Foreign supplier verification program, we are now doing. The goal is to do a little 1,300, we've done 290. And then sanitary transportation is added on to the PC work. For the human food, we want to do about 144, and we've done 43. The tough part on this slide, I want people to understand, because sometimes they will get confused. We are limited on the ability of the limited scope work we're doing, because right now, and all the firms for the most part, unless you have self-attest, it's very small, you fall under the full PC. We can do that big body of work. We have more firms in our inventory that are eligible than we have staff that's trained. And similar to what everybody's dealing with, training, and more training is our biggest issue right now.
When you say plan, do you plan for this year to do those?
Correct. This is what we have. We have a target every year. It gives us a sense of how we're doing. And this is just a target. That's a target we have.
For this year.
For this year. And so what we do, we actually do a contract with each of our centers. This is a contract we did with the Center for Food Safety and Applied Nutrition. They said, we want you to do 812. We can have a government shutdown. We can have 12 outbreaks. They want those 812 firms inspected. Give you a sense of some of the other body of work that may affect some of your partners out there. course, we talked a little bit this morning about produce. That is wrong because that should have been additive. So it's really we're at 135%. The total number really is 55. But we are out there doing the produce safety work right now. Our goal, we want to do 180. We're up to about 149 right now. Foreign, we plan to do 40, and we've already had up to about 55. And if you haven't heard, there's been an outbreak going on. And so we have spent an enormous amount of time in Mexico doing a lot of those foreign inspections. We have a frozen berry assignment that we're doing. We're looking at 2 pathogens, hepatitis and norovirus, if I'm correct. And we've done 811 of the 1,000 domestically and 284 import. And of course, we're doing the romaine lettuce assignment, 270, 52. And we will be adding on a quick check. May not affect your firms, but just for you to know, it's going to be a combination of domestic and foreign. It's a quick check, and we're going to be doing that probably in March. That will be the last big heavy lift for us to do on the field side.
Can I ask a question about those categories?
Yes.
Are those standard every year, or do those rotate, or what's?
Which category?
Frozen
Assignment?
berries, romaine?
Well, no. What happens is the Center for Food Safety, they have a risk prioritization model they do every year, virtually. And it changes. They will, every year it will change, not unless we do not meet the mark. So we've had some assignments we've had to carry on a couple of years because we have not met the required amount of samples they want. They do a risk analytics and we pull all that data in them, but it changes.
Okay, thank you.
Just a quick question, the intentional adulteration.
Yes.
What's your quick check involved?
Quick check is going to be approximately around, I'm guessing, around 8 to 10 questions. For the most part, we just want to know those firms that are eligible, because it's a large number. I don't know what the number is, but it's a large number for the firms to fall under the rule. And it's going to ask them, are they aware of it? It's we're not even, the form they're filling will not even be captured in our data system. We're very sensitive with the intentional adulteration. We have a whole new paradigm we got to work just when it deals with the sensitive information. Once 2 to 3 years when you come to full implementation, we're going to have to figure that one out. But it's a quick.
Will you guys be asking whether or not they've completed the risk assessment that you guys put out?
I don't think I think for the most part they're just asking on awareness of the rule. I don't think that's a question.
Okay.
I don't think it might be,
Right.
But it will only add approximately 30 minutes to the inspection.
What does your rack mean before?
Oh, I'm sorry, raw agricultural product. And I apologize, I live this, I dream it, and so I'm gonna say an acronym, and please correct me. It's part of my nature, and I apologize on that.
I have one question about the eye quick check. Are you guys also asking if they have a food defense plan?
They may, but I'm not quite sure. As a matter of fact, I can tell you, I know the assignments in clearance right now, we're reviewing it. I really need to read it, but like I said, the goal is to really get that out in March.
Thank you.
These are the top findings, or most common FDA observations. I used to always put the top 5. And I quit putting the top 5, and I now use most often and most common, because once again, any given day when we pull the data, because more data gets in, the categories switch. And I don't want people to say, Glenn Bass said this, and the next day, my boss Joanne said, so I say, let's go to common. And as usual, here's what we're finding, hazard analysis. And I'll tell you some of the biggest issues we're having, and everyone's heard of Appendix 1, to the bane of my existence. I spend more time either talking to firms or talking to the field. We have made it clear, Appendix 1 is a guideline. We have learned so much from firms. They have done a marvelous hazard analysis that we have not even thought of. And so, I tell audience, if you're eligible for the full scope and we're doing a hazard analysis, and our investigators have identified a hazard that you have not identified, and you have legitimate reason, you may have research there, have that conversation. Once again, if our investigator is having a difficulty understanding or having that conversation with you, you can tell them, phone a friend. What we have provided our investigators, everyone's heard of the TAN, the big industry TAN. We have what's called a regulator TAN, which means they can call a national expert, an SME at the center or on ORA, and they will answer. Our goal is for them to answer that question while they're doing inspection, so we don't have a necessary observation on the 483. We understand the importance of the 483. So please, if you're in a mess and you're being inspected, tell them, phone the friend. And I had to do that twice this week already. We're finding problems with the sanitation control verification procedure sometimes, between the procedures and the monitoring. If you're an R ready-to-eat food, and post-manufacturing and pre-packaging, you're exposed to any kind of environment, you need to have a pretty good environmental monitoring program.
Mm-hmm.
Let me be clear, and because I work so well with Bill Carell, who is the office director at the SIPSAN Office of Compliance, one, if you're ready to eat and you get any kind of recall, you can expect we're coming in there. One, if it's within our authority, we're gonna do a full scope PC inspection, and which really drives firms crazy, we're gonna do environmental sampling. And when we do environmental sampling, we don't do 5, we don't do 25, we do hundreds. Bill has been very clear and consistent with us, that message. And then, of course, the allergens, which, I'm puzzled with this new FSMA and PC. You still look at what's the number 1 class 1 recall? Allergens. And I have these dialogue with some firms, and part of the rule is you do a real analysis if something happens. And we've gone to several firms and say, don't you think you need to do a real analysis? And they will argue with us and say no. And we say, but there was a failure somewhere in the system. We don't push it if they don't want to do it. But I tell them it's going to cost you more with a classroom recall. It's a very expensive mistake. This slide, I want to give you a sense. This is the estimated amount of hours we're spending and I'll go with abbreviations, I apologize, when we're doing these inspections. This is from 2017 to 2019. NAI means no action indicated. We didn't find anything. For an NAI inspection, we probably may not even issue a 483. VAI, voluntary action indicated. We found something that we just want to put you on notice. OAI, official action indicated, you've got a problem. You got a food safety problem, and we're going to put you on notice. And you can tell, if you look at the times, you can see the difference between our times and our state partner time. And I'll tell you the biggest difference on our side of the house. We made a mandate on our staff when they were doing the PC inspection because it was so new. None of our investigators cannot do a PC full scope inspection unless they meet certain criteria. They had to take the FSPCA, they had to take the 254 FDA regulator course, and they had to go on an on-the-job experience by a national expert. Because when you're inspecting under the system approach, it's a total different way of thinking. You're looking at the totality and how it relates to food safety. And so that's why our time, we generally have about 3 to 4 people when we do inspections. Sorry, but that's why we're just making sure. This is some of the regulatory activity we've seen. And I wanted to really highlight this slide for you to see. You'll see we said we did 23 warning letters, 44 regulatory meetings, and 4 injunction. I can tell you 4 or 5 years ago, when I was the district director in Detroit, I'll tell you, warning letters would have been the biggest thing because we used to promote our investigators. We thought was a great investigator. We wanted enforcement action. That was our driver. Get that warning letter, get that injunction, get that seizure. Not under FSMA. That's the last thing we want. Our goal, if we can, we'll do a regulatory meeting. A regulatory meeting is we're just having a firm come in. You're going to have a discussion between that firm and that district. We'll probably have experts from the center there, and we're going to say, here's what you're doing wrong. That's what we want to do. Matter of fact, right now, if you look at some of the work we've done, our documenting rate on the 483s is probably the lowest we've done. Because, part of when Mike Taylor was our assistant associate commissioner, he started the premise, educate well and before we regulate. And so our goal is we do not document to the regulation, we document now to food safety. So most of our actions, our discussion items are more so regulatory meetings. And I'm hoping people outside are seeing that. That is what we are pushing on my side of the house. So I'm hoping that's becoming more visible now. And here are some of the numbers I really want you to focus on. And I highlighted two numbers I think is important to this audience. One, you see there's 13,000, and you'll see it says full scope. And then you'll see that number 3,526. In order for us to, what we considered, FSMA required, broke up our inventory for FDA. FSMA required us to take our inventory and put it in two categories for the most part. High risk and non-high risk. High risk has to be inspected at a minimum every 3 years. Non-high risk has to be inspected at a minimum every 5 years. Well, in order for us to meet some of our work, we would have to do 3,000 inspections a year. And I can tell you last year when we did PC, we only did just short of 800 between FDA and our state partners. We're going to have a hard time meeting that number. And so some of the critical numbers I want you to see, this is just a picture letting you see the type of work we're doing. And I want people to also see, in addition to doing the PC work, there's other work we're doing also. We're still doing the juice hazard, we're still doing the LACF, we're still doing the seafood. Remember, PC affects all those programs too, because there are provisions under the PC that will be implemented under seafood, juice, and LACF. This is the number I think that when you look at the modified requirements, firms that attest, we know right now about 1,200 firms have a test. We capture that in our system. They have gone through and completed the necessary paperwork for it. What concerns me more is this number. We got about 17,000 firms probably eligible who have not. Now, let me couch this because we had this incident this week. If you're a very small firm, you are eligible to self-attest. When we come in and inspect you, and you have not self-attest, and you're going to get the full scope. And we had a firm, we were doing it, and suddenly they realized they could self-attest, and they say, oops, leave us FDA, we're qualified. No. You're not in the system, you haven't done it. We're going to complete that inspection. And so I really want to figure out, and maybe you guys can help us, is we need to get that number down. I mean, the data is only good as what we have in the system, but this is what our data is telling us. So there are a lot of firms out there, before we come knocking on their doors, they need to self-attest. And I'll show you some of the forms they can fill so that they can do it. Huh?
I was going to ask, what is the mechanism?
Yeah, I'm going to share it with you right now. Okay, but another thing, another critical, what was unique to this rule, I wanted to make sure we remember with the FSMA has what's called the inflation adjustment cutoff. And I went in there and looked at it, and before, when the rule first went out for the very small, you can see the numbers have gone up. And every year that number will go up. So firms got to realize, whomever's their consultant, whoever works for them, they need to go on this website yearly and check it because that number is going to shift if you have not attested. Right now for food it's 1.1 and for animal food it's 2.75 because it's based on the rate of inflation. I'm not quite sure if most people know that. Question, how can I obtain the information and list of business that are submitted the attestation? This is the form they need to complete, which is the Form FDA 3942A for human, Form 3942B for animal food. And they will fold this form in. When that form is completed, it's going to come into our system. Only FDA will be able to see in our facility registration, but we will get a mark. So and the reason I wanted to put this here because our states do inspection. Our states don't have purview to this information. However, before they do the inspection, we will tell them if the firm has a test. So if a state's doing an inspection, and it's a very small, they should get the notification from their division prior to going out and inspecting these firms. But please, if you can do anything, spread the word that that form exists and they need to apply. And the beauty of it is, if they self-attest, all they need to do is say they have. We're not evaluating it. All we're going to go do is the modified inspection. That's it. They just have to report it.
Excuse me, I have two questions. Sorry, I just came in there.
Yeah.
Is there any way for somebody to call in to get those forms, or do they have to, and send them in manually? We work with a lot of Amish processors, or do they have to find somebody that's gonna do this online for them?
They can write a letter. I got that question
Okay.
actually. Our state liaison.
That's what I was gonna tell you. What I would do, I would work hand in hand. We have a position in our organization, the state liaison, who works very well with our state partners, and that's who I would, and they have to, they'll load it in, but by all means, if they're eligible, get them in that system. Better soon than when we come knocking at the door. Yeah,
Right, so that they can call and get that, a printed copy, or we can print that copy of the form, and then they just mail it in.
right.
The other question I had, and this is based on a conversation I had with FDA last fall, it is, and I want to verify that, when they send the attestation in, they keep a copy of it, but they are not to expect anything back from the FDA. You're not going to get it back to them and say, it's been approved. Is that
No.
still correct?
Correct, right. All we doing, like I said, the minute we step in there, you see yourself a test, okay, check mark, modify requirement, that's it. We're not evaluating it, that's not our purview. Now, I will couch this. As much as you can file and become qualified, you can lose it. You can lose it. If we go and inspect, and we find out one or two reasons, and when we're in that inspection, that one, what the exemption you used was incorrect or wrong, we have the ability to rescind that self-attestation, and then you would then go back under the full PC rule. So just let people know, your firm, and you get caught up in a huge major outbreak, whoa, there's gonna be a tough time for you. Yes, sir?
Could you just back up a little minute? We talked about the two kinds of attestation.
Yes, there are two.
One is you're under $1 million, and you.
Well, first, in order to qualify, you have the monetary.
Right.
And then to self-attest, there are two ways you can self-attest.
And say those again.
The first self-attest, you're saying, I'm a very small firm, I have developed this hazard analysis plan for me. Boom, done.
And that's with a small h and a small a. It's not like an official, like in the full-blown PC.
No,
It's
but you have.
sort of a hazard.
You can manage your hazards. You have
Right.
it, all right. And then the second one, you're saying, I am under jurisdiction, either county, local, tribal, under their inspectional authority that they,
State?
it might be, I gotta look at it.
See, that's where I get.
It might be state, I think it might be. Yeah, because states with license, you would be under state licensure, so I think.
That's everybody.
I think it would cover,
In Pennsylvania, isn't that
I
everybody?
think it would.
I'm a little confused about that.
But Luke, to follow up on that, because I've asked our Department of Ag, at least on the milk inspectors, and they said they're gonna be requiring, hazard analysis plans, and I just saw you got a time limit, so I'm gonna.
Okay, yes, sir. And I think I'm almost done. Oh, this is what the form looks like, that people haven't seen. I want just to make you guys see the form, and that's how you can go download it. And just to give you notice what we're gonna be continuing doing this year, once again, we will still be doing our on-the-job training for our staff and our on-the-job experience for our state partners. I have a promise to our state partners, whenever we go out and we do a preventive control inspection, I have asked my divisions that they can at minimum reach out to their state partners. If they wanna piggyback and watch us do what we do, by all means, we offer that they make that opportunity. Once again, like I said, our data is only good as the inventory. Remember, the facility registration is voluntary, so it's good as data as we get as people put in. And I think I wrote some quick notes I just wanted to tell you about. One, like I said, training is the biggest issue for everybody. It's the same thing for us. This year alone, we're having 10 classes for our federal regulators. We're putting 40 students in these classes. It's just because we have so much work and we just need to get more people trained. I told you environmental sampling will become a big part. And we started a new piece of work called a root cause investigation. You don't want to be a part of that, but I put it out for transparency. Here, I want you to know everything I talked about when it comes to data, compliance. We have what's called an FDA dashboard. It's transparency. You can look at trends that we're seeing under each provision in preventive controls. If you go to this dashboard, you can see what we're finding under sanitation, what we're finding under allergen. All this information is at your hand. And that information is updated, I think, on a monthly or quarterly basis, but you can see everything.
Is that sorted by size of the company or what they produce?
I don't think it's sorted by size of company, but a matter of fact, you can go in there, you can actually, you can filter by the name of the firm. All this data is available if you want to look at it. And like I said, the industry tan is there. And once again, you can see the biggest questions that are coming in is still preventive controls. So by all means, I don't know how responsive the industry tan is, but you can always submit a question to the industry tan. And I think these are my reference documents. I like to leave reference documents in case people need them. This will let you know all the stuff we're working on, from compliance programs, the IOM, but this is on all the dashboards in case you need it. And
Are we gonna get a copy?
That's
of this
it.
slide?
Yes,
Okay.
okay.
Thanks.
you don't have to think about that. Thank you.
Thank you.